I'm Amil Niazi sitting in for Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This is Commotion. Care Bears, the Magic School Bus, Babar. If you're a Canadian of a certain age, and I certainly am, then those names immediately conjure up a lot of memories. Those iconic cartoons and many more were created by Nelvana Limited, and news that the storied production company was shutting down indefinitely, well, it's hit a lot of us majorly in our fields, including Teri Hart and David Soren, who have joined us today to talk about it. Teri, David, welcome to Commotion.
Hello.
Teri, talk to me about your reaction when you learned that Nelvana Limited was shutting down production indefinitely.
Well, it's really sad news. Them saying at first it came out that they were shutting down completely, and then they got a press release together and said, as you mentioned, Emil, like they're just shutting down production and they're still going to focus on distribution, marketing, merchandising, and managing existing properties. One of those existing properties is Bluey, so they're going to still focus on that. There's a couple things at play here. We really do hate to see any Canadian media company stop producing. And then add to that Nelvana has been around for like my entire life, for over half a century. And they created content that really did affect multiple generations of kids and families, really. Yeah. And they helped to launch incredible careers. Like there was a pipeline here. And David's going to speak to this because he really lived that pipeline. And this is a legacy company. So it isn't just a loss to those who work there now, but it's a loss for the future employment of Canadian animators and artists. And this is an area, I think it's really important to note that this is an area in Canada where we've always punched above our weight. So to not have that company here now for the incredible talent in this country is really, really devastating.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk a bit about that history, Teri, because, I mentioned Care Bears, massive, Magic School Bus, Babar, but, also for some of the younger kids, it's like Franklin, Rock and Rule, Barney's World. So let's just situate Nelvana's place in that animation history.
Well, I mean, you mentioned all of those, Emil, and they are all just like, you can immediately picture the characters that were created from these brands. And the legacy, is just so significant. Nelvana very smartly figured out how to take existing IP and make animated series and sell those animated series around the world. Now, people are probably thinking, yeah, like that's what people do. And it sounds very commonplace today. Mm-hmm. But Nelvana was really one of the first media companies with that business model. And they were super successful with it. And they remained in Canada. So the shows we watch as kids, I mean, they leave an indelible impression for us. I have lots of memories of Care Bears, and for millions of kids around the world, I mean, those shows and those memories came from Nelvana.
Yeah, we all have a lot of memories of Care Bears, and one of the most iconic ones is probably this.
Care Bears countdown, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Who's that coming from somewhere up in the sky? Moving fast and bright as a firefly.
Do I want to do the Care Bears stare right now? Hard. Yeah, big
yes,
time.
You
do. David, you're known for Blast from the Past. Although I have 3 young kids, so it's like blast from my current life right now. And it's a good one. Could be worse, right, than having your kids want to watch Care Bears. David, you are known for directing Captain Underpants, the first epic movie, Turbo, and Shrek. For DreamWorks, you didn't direct Shrek, but you did storyboard art on it. But you really cut your teeth with Nelvana back in the day. So talk to us about that gig. I mean, it sounds like that would be a dream gig.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm just one person with a small story about Nelvana. It impacted so many people over the past 5 decades. So I worked there during my summers when I was studying animation at Sheridan College. I was just doing entry-level jobs, but I was soaking up everything I could from everyone around me. Mentorship was valued, and some really talented people took me under their wing. I got to participate in this storyboarding course taught by one of their top story artists, a brilliant guy named John Van Bruggen. And by the time I went back to Sheridan in the fall, I'd storyboarded an entire episode of this show called Little Bear. And it gave me this huge leg up and was one of the reasons I got hired by DreamWorks right out of school.
That's so cool.
So, yeah, it holds a very special place in my heart. And, it's very sad to see it.
I wonder, David, if you can speak to this at all, but something like this has to be really deflating for someone who's about to go to Sheridan for animation or someone who's there right now. I know you can't speak for them, but if you were David just getting ready for Sheridan in the fall, how would this news impact you?
It's not going to fill me with hope, that's for sure. I think it's a sign of the times. I think there's a lot of people struggling right now. A lot of studios struggling. I think, it's just going to mean people have to kind of find different ways to find work, and companies are going to have to pick up the slack, hopefully, where Nelvana has kind of thrown the gauntlet down.
Yeah. Well, back to Nelvana, David, what made a company like this unique in the overall animation landscape?
Sure. I mean, I think probably from my perspective, the sheer diversity of their shows. I mean, everything from the Care Bears to Beetlejuice, the animated series. My favorite was a show called Raccoons from the 80s, if anybody remembers that. I worked on a creepy show called Tales from the Crypt Keeper, which was geared towards older kids. So there didn't really appear to be a house style, which made it more of an exciting place to work. And I'm sure it also allowed them to bring in more projects over the years. As Teri was saying, Nelvana was one of the only places in Canada where you could really sustain a full career in animation. And I mean, I just have to say, it's a testament to all the hardworking artists and directors and producers and production staff that the company thrived for as long as it did.
So Teri, we're not talking about, small shows here. We're talking about massive IP shows that everyone knows, that everyone has an immediate, very positive, visceral reaction to. So what do we know about why this announcement shutting it down?
Well, I mean, it's corporate. It's a corporate structure problem. Chorus, another media company, they bought Nelvana in 2000 for a whole lot of money. And, I mean, this was a time, 25 years ago where big companies were buying up smaller companies. And we saw that through a lot of different transactions that happened in Canadian media. And it really seems like the decision now, 25 years later, to shutter the production arm of Nelvana is due to the financial challenges of Chorus, the parent company. Chorus has been laying people off and cost cutting for a while now. I mean, it speaks to what David was saying about struggles in the industry across the board. Chorus is trying to balance their books, and Nelvana Animated Production seems to be one of the many fatalities at the hands of parent company Chorus.
David, Teri mentioned this is perhaps a sign of struggles with the industry at large. Can you speak to what some of those are?
Well, I mean, my observation is that I think it's this kind of combination of the advent of streaming services, COVID, and changing viewing patterns that's really hurt the animation industry tremendously, and the entire entertainment business in general. As Teri said, studios are all cutting costs. They've become extremely risk averse. Very few are willing to gamble on original ideas. So they're playing it safe, and they're squeezing all the juice they can out of sequels and spin-offs and giant IP. It's not a great recipe for longevity.
Right. And then what about, you mentioned COVID. It's just shrinkage that they never bounce back from?
I think partly COVID was just everybody was stuck at home and watching things at home. They weren't going to movie theaters. There was a kind of battle over streaming services at that time anyway, and all the studios were rushing in without really knowing what they were getting into. So I think just the nature and instability of that time changed the way people are consuming entertainment and changed the way studios are having to pivot to continue to make money somehow.
Right. Yeah. Sounds like this is, I mean, you could be saying this about movies. You could be saying this about television. Yeah.
Yeah.
Teri, we're getting this news as we're also learning that Family Channel, which is another major, this is where I watched most of my stuff when I was a kid, is shutting down. Nickelodeon Canada is also coming to an end. What do you make of this kind of bleak moment in family and kids programming in Canada?
Well, bleak is exactly it. I mean, I worked at Family Channel. I still meet kids today. I meet people today, maybe around your age, Amil, who are like, I watched you on Family Channel. I grew up watching you on Family Channel. And that was when it was owned by Astral. And that harkens back to what I was saying in the early 2000s of, bigger companies buying smaller companies. So Astral was bought by Bell, and then it got split up into different places. And the demise of all these family and children's entertainment mainstays in Canada is just devastating for me. I mean, I think I agree with everything David's saying. And I think we're also saying, just to add to that, because, adding to the demise here, is we are seeing ad revenues decline on traditional TV platforms. And I also think, just based on my experience with the kids in my life, that they are watching content differently. They're not watching television. They're watching content on their devices rather than television. They have access to YouTube. They have access to different platforms on different, as I said, devices. So I mean, I think to try and be a little bit positive about this, I do hope that we are reaching kind of a bottom here, and that what's going to come out of this is a way to still find ways to produce kids programming in this country and have them on these platforms, meet the viewers and the kids where they are, and have support for this content. Because as I mentioned, and I do believe it's true, it is one of the areas where we have always excelled as storytellers and producers, in animation, in kids entertainment. So let's hope we can find a way to kind of rejuvenate that in the Canadian media landscape.
Yeah. Well, I'm doing my part. I force my children to watch Tintin, Babar, Care Bears. They're on Inspector Gadget these days. That's how deep I'm taking it. That's my civic duty. Okay, well, we got to leave it there. But Teri, David, thanks so much for chatting with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Teri Hart is an entertainment reporter with Super Channel in Toronto, and David Soren is a writer, director, and author. He joined us from LA.